Welcome back to my channel. My name's Adrian, and today I'm going to take a review of Modern Necessities, the professional edition by the Scrying Dutchman. Recently I had the privilege to sit down with Victor for an interview. Before we went into that interview, he sent me a copy of this. He was like, "You do want to look at, something else I've written?" I'm not an idiot. I'm never one to say no. Hence the reason now, cameras on, fantastic book. It is a modern setting for old school essentials, but more than that, it's not just guns, firearms, ammo, new classes. It's got this wonderful setting, a bit like Bright, is it Netflix TV series with Will Smith, that really underrated TV show. But it's going to allow you to bring orcs, goblins, elves into a modern day setting, classes that fit its own unique magic. The psionics in here, and really interesting. It's even got magic weapons and sort of futuristic armor. I was actually utterly blown away by this. I'd actually never heard of it, and everyone's like, "Well, have you never heard of that?" Well, before we get into the review, let me just, as always, let me show you where you can pick up a copy of this. So it is available for Drive-Thru RPG on print on demand, and you can get it in softback, hardback, and the PDF. It's currently on sale if you're going to get the PDFs, so it's reduced on price at the moment. If you do decide to pick this up, please do use my affiliate link. As much as I didn't pay this, Victor was kind enough to send me this copy. He also hasn't asked me to review it. I'm just doing this because I like it. But please do use my affiliate link if you pick up this or anything else, and it does help me sort of buy more stuff to bring back onto the channel and just keep the flow of reviews going. And also, those of you that are using it, I've got no way of knowing who uses it, but those that do, I thank you so much. It's very kind. Everything that you do and everything I make on it just goes back into the channel and allows me to buy more books. What does it include? So it is a third-party supplement for Old School Essentials, so you're going to need the rule book for Old School Essentials as well. It's going to give you 20 modern themes, including soldiers and hitman. Rules here for modern traits as well. So it does modernize sounds very strange. Modernize the sort of the elves and orcs and stuff. So we'll cover that. 60 plus modern weapons, pistols, rockets. I want to say about a quarter of the book is this arsenal section. Numerous attachments, ammunition, 15 new lots of armor, equipment, flashlights, specific name magic weapons, rules for vehicles and vehicle combat. The new spells. So we've got the technomancy spells here, 20 psionic powers. And there's a bestiary, technically it's called, of a load of NPCs. It's got the rules for hired mercenaries, and it does close down with some plot hooks and an adventure. All the plans for the adventure and maps are also included, so you can easily just upload those on a VTT. It's amazing. So everything, and the price, it's a pretty good giveaway, really, for everything that's included in here. Right, let's just get into the book itself. And the bit that confused me, because when I was originally sent this, you can see the cover here, and I was like, okay, it's just a modern setting, just a modern setting. That was my first impression of the book based on the front cover. And when you actually spend a little bit more time looking at it, you notice that these are ears, so that's an elf. But more importantly, this orc has got, well, say what I thought was a human has got tusks. So that's obviously an orc. And I was like, oh, because once you turn over the first page, you're like, get it now. Here we've got APC with some soldier type person shooting on. I think that's a Wendigo. Sinister looking full moon in the background. I was like, okay, this isn't exactly what I was expecting. I was expecting just a modern, sort of D20 modern type thing for Old School Essentials. Nope, this is a full game that you can do sort of, well, you can take out all the fantasy element of it if you want to and just go, full on sort of John Wick sort of character. I wouldn't. Rules as written, throw all this in. We've got a few new rules in the book, so we're going to start. And then artwork throughout is absolutely amazing, because you get stuff like this. You've got this little goblin, sort of Godfather type figure with a couple of orcs in the background in their non Adidas tracksuit. It's brilliant. It's just so on theme. So there's so much art through here. Table of contents. It's always a good place to start at the front of the book. Saying that, I did pick a book recently that doesn't have contents, and it made me angry. Hence the reason I'm not reviewing it. Going down here, it is all hyperlinked as well. So thank you, Victor. Always helps, and it just speeds up reading and finding sections of books, especially if you go in the PDFs. But let's get to the layout of contents. It's nice and clear, and so we're going straight into gameplay. So we've got 4 pages of rules. We've then got the 20 classes, which is about, so that's about it's about a quarter of the book, and the racial traits. We've then got a load of weaponry, which again is another, it's about a third of the book, from page 66 all the way through to 107. It's like 50 pages of guns, armor, magic weapons, explosives, things like that. Even all the way up to nuclear weapons are included in this book. His own take here on spells. We've got this technomancy, then got psionics, the bestiary, which is a load of NPCs, including some paranormal ones and some robots. Held high mercenaries, a few extra rules. They're mostly optional rules. Throw them in. Just include them, because they're things like bleeding and additional wound tables, things like that. Chuck them all in. Just get it all in there. Some plot hooks just to get you going, and if that wasn't enough, so it just closes down with an assault on Black Fang Tower. Not Nakatomi Tower, but could well be. It's not, but it's a good. And so you've then got the map as well, the plans of the tower. Opening the book, we've got a list of backers. So if you did back this, well done. I really do. I do an awful lot of Kickstarter backings, and I love it when a book comes out, an author creates it, and it's a fantastic thing. So this is good. So, and it's nice to have the names in there as well. So we've got some gameplay. So if you imagine, if you're going for old school essentials, you're going to have to modernize the setting. So we've got rules here that deal with firing into melee, firing at melee range as well. Concealment rules, firing from concealment. I like that. You can just sort of pick your gun out from your concealed holster and shoot. Firing into melee is going to be quite dangerous now, and there's a random chance you're going to hit the person you're trying to protect. Firing out of melee, depending on the weapon you're actually using, will make it easier or harder. And then we've got gunshot loudness, because obviously guns make weapons. It's going to attract more people. Got wilderness weapons as well. Going prone is going to make it harder to be shot, but easier to be hit with a melee weapon. Dual wielding, obviously, who doesn't want to go full John Woo sort of type movie, and also John Wick as well, really, and any of those grappling rules. Jamming, guns are going to jam if you roll a 1, then there's a chance that, well, it's still not a guarantee that the gun's going to jam if you roll a 1, but it's just a nice inclusion here. Damage reduction. Later in the back of the book, we're going to talk about armor depletion. It's not in the standard rules. Again, I would include that. Different rules here for cover. And then a sort of new way of doing skills to offer D20. And they're going to level base it, really. And then you're just going to roll 2D6, and you're going to be looking to roll over the skill to pass. But as you go up levels, you're just going to become more proficient in the skills. Backgrounds, this feels very much inspired, even though Shadow Dark wasn't exist at the time of this writing, feels that sort of thing. You're going to have a background, so instead of having skills, you will have backgrounds, and obviously you will then link that sort of broad background to the games master. Say, so for example, you'd say, my character was a firefighter because that's what it happened to roll. So you're going to be more proficient and better at sort of climbing ladders. You should be fitter and stronger to be able to run further than a non-firefighter, so to speak. So I like these thematic backgrounds that are coming out across variety of games nowadays. So those are your rule changes here, and then we're just going to get into classes. So there's 20 of them. I'm not going to go through each of them fully, but as you'd expect, you can have some minimum requirements, prime attribute to go through, number of hit dice, the maximum level to go to, the type of armor and weapons. It also gives a section of the type of combat and how you're going to fight. So crooks are career criminals, and they like to dual wield, hence the picture here and here. So it's very much sort of gung fu is the way I see it. Was it Preston from Equilibrium? And if you haven't watched that, go and watch it. It's one of the best gunfighting. The end scene where he's just walking through. I don't want to spoil it if you've never watched it, but that Christian Bale, the work Christian Bale put in, it's, I think it was sort of hidden away because I think The Matrix came round about that time. So I think Matrix sort of shone a lot more than Equilibrium, but go and watch it. So these get these guns kimbo, so they're going to be better at dual wielding, and they're going to have a variety of skills like moving silent, hear noise, etc. And then you're going to get different abilities as you level up. Then each class will get its skill processions, saving throws, and then the leveling and changes to your THAC0. It also does ascending and descending armor classes, so if you're like me and is terrified of THAC0, even though people keep telling me I shouldn't, it makes my brain hurt, so I will use ascending ACs. It's just easier for me. We'll then get into the detective, and the detective, like all same, very similar layout you're going to get, but they're going to be really good at detecting lies, clues, arresting people. They get this +1 bonus here if they're grappling someone while they're in possession of handcuffs. Don't know how that works, but I like it. Exorcist, here we got this crazy demon hunter, I think, in full biker leathers, crash helmet, and I'd imagine silver sword. And they're going to get really good at monster hunting, and they can, this one, so they can make silver bullets on a daily basis from just taking silver items around the house. As you imagine, these are very good at hunting for demons, and they're going to do like sin eaters and turn undead as they go up levels. We've then got the face, which is your sort of charismatic Lando Calrissian type character. The reason that I should say Han Solo, because he's got failure to communicate here. So if a conversation goes wrong, they can quick draw and shoot like Han when he shot first. He did. I don't care which version you've watched. When I was a kid, Han shot first, and he always will. But they're really good at bartering and smooth talking. We're then going into the heavy gunner, which has got this really on-point thematic ability to increase their AC. Here we go. They've got a shield gun. Heavy gunners gain a +1 bonus to AC and death saving throws when using heavy firearms, which hopefully they're going to be using an awful lot of. But I just love the idea of people are shooting in at them and they're using the gun to just protect themselves. It's great little things in each of the character class. In each of the character classes, you've got your hired killer here. So this is your full-on John Wick assassinate. You can hear noises, hide in shadows, pick locks. But more importantly, he's a grey man. So he can move through crowds and people aren't really going to pay attention to him. He just looks absolutely normal. Martial artist, finally we got a decent martial artist class. I always felt sorry for the 5th edition monk. I know that it's got its lovers, but it didn't sort of gel with me, but they are going to get stronger and tougher with using their hands. And this cage fighter ability here, while fighting in tight quarters, such as a room, so in any space that's 15 or 15 less, or 5-foot wide hallway, their unarmed attacks are going to go up a tier. So a D3 becomes a D4, a D6 becomes a D8. I just like the fact it's called cage fighter, chuck 'em in, MMA style, going to do more damage. And you're going to get to use that an awful lot because, as a martial artist, you're going to be fighting in hallways. It reminds me of there's that scene in Punisher when he's just going through the corridor, when he's breaking out of the jail. I think it is in the Marvel TV series. It might actually be Daredevil, not the Punisher. But one of those that is fighting out. Absolutely amazing TV series. Probably need to catch up on the latest one, but didn't have that great at reviews. The medic is a bit of a one, where it's got this thing where healing damage in campaigns when spell casting, otherwise referee's discretion, they're going to have access to divine spells. Let them have access to divine spells, because if you don't, you're really reducing what a medic can do. You're gonna run a fantasy setting. I know why it's in here, because if you're going to run this as a non-fantasy setting and make it a bit more realistic, you're not going to want them to have access to spells. Let them have the spells. Run the book as rules written. I think I'd be running this as a fantasy bright setting. But I love the fact that Victor is sort of, you can take this out if you just want to run this as a sort of D20 equivalent modern for old school essentials. Ninja. Who doesn't want to play a ninja? So they've got things like stealth killer, climb sheer surfaces, that they can climb up a sheer wall and traverse narrow surfaces. So they can just run across little sort of tight ropes, very much on theme for all those 70s and 80s ninja movies, I don't know if you're old enough, if you've ever watched any of them. Even American Ninja, which I think they made about 5 or 6, they were still good fun. So you've got the ninja then, Psychonaut. This is another one. So this is the they're going to use the psionics. So it has got this bit where, if so they're going to wear light armor, but you're going to obviously going to have to include the psionics. So if you're going straight modern day, or even near future with this, sadly you probably couldn't include this one. I'd include it. I think it's brilliant. The psionics are really good. We'll look at those towards the end of the book. Sapper, incredibly skilled with OEDs and IEDs, as you'd imagine. So removing and finding treasure, creating bombs, building traps, and crafting explosives. Just go and blow a load of stuff up. The scouts are really good at recon. So they're good at concealment. When they wear their ghillie suit, they're going to do an additional chance to conceal as well. And they're going to be able to move about 90% of the time. They're going to be able to move and not leave tracks anywhere. So they're really good at tracking and sort of out in the wilderness and moving silently. And observing, as they're observing people, they get better at shooting as well. Your secret agent. So here's your Ethan Hunt. Ethan Hawke's an actor, isn't it? Here's your Ethan Hunt type character. Really good with gadgets, moving silently. Again, hiding shadow. There's a little bit of repetition across some of the classes, but absolutely fine because it mixes in. But when I come to my conclusion about the classes, I'll do that at the end of this section. Because I'm glad there's the repetitions in there, and I like, the titles as well, gives you that sort of Bond feel because, secret agent is Bond. Here's a power you only live twice, master of disguise on Her Majesty's Secret Service. It's just little homages here that Victor's doing throughout. Sniper. Again, get like the ghillie ability and the Pathfinder ability, but sniping, as you'd imagine, they're very good at sniping and shooting. As they level up, they're just going to get better and better at killing things from a long range. Soldier, just your out and out combat god. With commando training, battle schools, they're good with all weapons, and they get this door kicker ability. No one else gets the door kicker ability, but they've got a good chance to kick a door down, which it's going to come in handy if your other characters can't pick locks. Survivalist, again, this is another one of these, so it's a little bit like the scouts. They're very good at tracking, foraging, but they can forage as well out in the wilderness. So if you need to do that, and they're good at, they can do speed reloads as well. Tech expert, or I want to call it techspert, I don't know why. They get some of the technomancy spells in here. It says you can remove them, let them have them, but these are going to be your hackers, finding, disabling alarms, etc. I think you're going to need the technomancy in for this class, because if not, this is the sort of class that's just going to sit around. They're going to stay in the van, stay back at the office, or anywhere in your base. So yeah, give them the spells, let them go out and do the cool stuff with spells. Treasure hunter, Lara Croft, Indiana Jones, this sort of thing. So they're very good action junkie, Lara Croft, opening locks, finding treasure, deciphering languages. Daredevil, so it's going to level up. They're going to be good at avoiding traps and cheating deaths. And then finally, you've got Batman. Kind of Batman, or poor man's Batman, which is the vigilante here. Moving silent, hiding shadows, but as they level up, they just get the Dark Knight ability where they can strike fear. So yeah, it's very much leaning into Batman to me. Oh, I lied. I've missed out Wheelman, which is your sort of speed demon driving grease monkey, gone in 60 seconds, sort of incredibly good driver. Okay, so just a quick point about the classes. My initial concern was 20 classes it's a very broad spectrum for players to sort of choose from, but the good thing is there is quite a lot of repetition of powers across the different classes. So for example, the ninja is quite similar to the special agent, who's quite similar to the hired killer, so it's technically the assassin. But yeah, I like it. I really like that, say, because you've got a lot of choice there, but because you do have the other powers, and there's you can cross over. There's quite a lot of crossover. I don't think it should be too intimidating, but it's going to allow you to pretty much play anything that the players want to play. If there's nothing in here for the players, You need to find new players because they lack imagination. But I think any modern film, even gone in 60 seconds, if you want to play that sort of setting, you can. But I'd be using this definitely for the fantasy setting. This is the bit about the changing the racial traits of the dwarfs, gnomes, elves, halfling, half orc, and human. None of the statistics are changing, so you don't need to worry about any of the tributes or anything like that. They're just going to have some different preferred and favoured weapons, and maybe one of them might be richer and things like that. So they've just got some other abilities, because if you think a lot of the fantasy abilities aren't going to be suitable for these, go, oh, here's an elf, he's proficient with a bow. Nope, the elf is now proficient with single shot firearms, so they're very good at long range and beyond. We're now going to look at a huge list of weapons, armor, guns, vehicles, grenades, nuclear options. The weapons category so it's broken down, as you'd imagine: light, medium, heavy, stationary weapons, indirect fire, explosives. We've got the rules here for auto fire, blasting, damage, sniping, spread damage, because some of the firearms will obviously, if you think sort of full automatic, will sort of spread across a few people. But what I like about the way he does this, and you don't get this in all rule books anymore, and I think you should. 5e, it's one of the good things that 5e does well, D&D have always done it well, is they will give a list of melee weapons, for argument's sake, in here, and then all the stats across, and down in prices and weight and special qualities. But then it will have each one without fail. There might be one that doesn't have a little sort of paragraph for it, but everything is nicely explained, and not all books do this, and I always appreciate the extra page count and space it's going to take up to actually just explain a little bit, and you're going to include cameras here, size, and a cane sword. You've got to have cane swords in these settings. But then into the light firearms, which is like your pocket pistols, magnums, all the way up to machine pistols. Then medium firearms, things like combat shotguns, submachine guns, carbines, hunting rifles. And then we've got into heavy weapons, which are, heavy firearms, I should say. So anti-material rifles, which is, it's designed to shoot aeroplanes out of the sky. I think it's kind of, do you remember that weapon in RoboCop that they put on, which is a real gun, by the way? It's that, I think. In heavy machine guns, flamethrowers, missile launchers, and then we're into stationary. I say stationary weapons, miniguns. If you make a minigun a stationary weapon, shame on you as a games master. Allow someone to pick it up, Jesse the Body Ventura style, and wade on people in a jungle. You have to. But like mortars, heavy mortars, maybe not shooting heavy mortars, but obviously, you've got the heavy weapon specialist in this. They're going to want to be playing with these sort of weapons and carrying them around. Obviously, it's going to affect concealment and your ability to drive around the country. But, you can set people up as a special unit, and I'm sure you can find a way. We're then into indirect weapons. So these are calling in things like airstrikes and stuff. So, strafing run off a helicopter. Well, I suppose it could come off an aeroplane as well. But, gunships coming in, bunker busters, cruise missiles. And finally, if it can't be killed, fly to orbit, nuke it from orbit. It's the only way to be sure. Getting into explosives. And if you want to if the players are going to make Molotov cocktails, pipe bombs, dynamite, nitroglycerine, landmines. And if they've got a million, it's just a spare million lying around, suitcase nuke. This is absolutely batshit crazy what's included in here. But he's gone all out to include, we've got firearm attachments here, night vision scopes, red dots, scopes, shotgun chokes, and also then, the additional weight and how it's going to affect your shooting stats for the players. Night vision goggles, we've got more firearm modifications here. And then we're going to get into ammo. And ammo's, like everything in here, you've got your standard bullets, and then you've got things like rubber bullets, and then we get into Dragon's Breath, which is going to sort of magnesium burn through. Silver rounds, as you imagine. Magic, you can shoot magic bullets. These are a way of doing damage to creatures that are immune to anything other than magical. rounds. What have we got? The ultraviolet tips here, so good at killing supernatural creatures. Vorpal just goes through everyone. High explosive heat damage and smoke bullets and tear gas, etc. Cultural firearms. I can't believe this is actually included in it. And again, I think this really reminds me of, Dungeons and Dragons, because especially in the sort of second edition, it did have cultural weapons, and this very much feels like this, because take for example dwarves are short, stocky. I imagine them having large hands like Tom Cruise in, what was that terrible film? I didn't like the film, but Tom Cruise was amazing. He was the guy dancing and jigging around. It's just become a massive meme. So dwarfs are going to have like these bigger hands, so they're not going to fit a standard grip pistol, or the fingers are going to be too bulky to get through to shoot rifles. So they're going to have their own weapons, and through that they're going to have bonus damage. They're going to be slightly more chance that it's not going to this. So it's going to have a bit of extra damage for this one, but also it's less likely to jam, which is quite nice. So when it does jam, it's not going to get the worst roll on there, but they can't shoot as far. So all of the cultural weapons are going to have a couple of advantages and a couple of disadvantages. So it includes elves, gnomes, orcs, and halflings. But then, on top of that, we've got lawful weapons, neutral weapons, and chaotic weapons, which is exactly how they seem. They all have infinite ammo, so you never have to reload them. Give them out sparingly. So a chaotic one will do double damage to lawful, but it won't do any damage whatsoever to chaotic people. And the lawful one is very similar to that. And then the neutral one, it's got, again, infinite damage. It's going to do +4 damage against lawful and chaotic. It's never going to jam, but it's going to do no damage to neutral characters. So I do like the idea of these. You just the sort of running around and you're taking pot shots and just doing no damage, and you go, oh, he's got to be good then, because my gun doesn't. My gun's designed to wipe out chaotic people. We assumed he was going to be the bad guy. He's the good guy. Luckily, I didn't kill him. But yeah, it's just a really good little thing that's just thrown in here. We're then into section 6 here, which is the armor. It's going to cover things like stab-proof vests, Kevlar vests, plate jackets, VIP suits, exosuits, etc. as well. And then we've got a huge equipment section, including bolt cutters, canteens, cell phones, or mobile phones, as I call them, gas masks, GPS units, portable jammers, toolkits, pharmaceuticals. So we've got all the drugs that links back to the medic. He could generate and make stuff as well in there. Demolitions, laser tripwires, pressure plates, so you can make creative bombs in here. Magical items, wonderful section here, section 9, including, so you got the machine gun called First Blood that doesn't really stand out. It's a standard machine gun. This weapon lacks the slow quality. Additionally, when the wielder is the first character in the party's marching order, any enemies encounters have a -1 penalty to surprise roll. Surprise enemies that are hit always take maximum damage from the weapon if a full auto attack is used, even when they make their save. So there's lots of these in here, like an unholy hand grenade, hammer of the gods, which does lightning damage. We've got magical armor as well, so animated Kevlar vests, and this tuxedo. Remind you of the Jackie Chan film? It should do. It's going to stay clean and self-repair itself, and you're going to be alcohol tolerant when you drink. It's very much on sort of par with that. I really did like the Tuxedo movie. People are probably going to judge me badly for saying that. Then we've got a variety of miscellaneous magic items as well. Into the vehicles, all the vehicles are broken down, so armor class, hit points, movement rates, how much fuel is going to include, going to be needed, and how long, how many crew is going to be required, and finally number of passengers. So we've then got things like sports cars, vans, pickups, helicopters, boats, speedboats, assault boats, all with all the prices to buy them, as well as all the movement rates. Just want to take a moment to have a look at this wonderful art on this left hand page here, watching these 2 helicopters take on. Well, there's 3 helicopters. The one's dying in the background. There's obviously another dragon or something else. The way the guy at the bottom of the screen is shooting off in this direction as this rocket's then heading towards the dragon. Why wouldn't you want to be doing that? What was that Christian Bale, Matthew McConaughey movie? It was dragons based in London. Reign of Fire, I think. That was one of my favourite movies around about that time. Other than the ending. The ending was pretty poor, but the build-up and the plot is... I wish that had got more of world, but you can play Reign of Fire. I want to play Reign of Fire now. I want to do this. I'm going to run this. So we can then get the Technomancy, which is nicely laid out. So we've got spells here from 1st all the way to 6th level. The only thing I don't like about this, I kind of do, because what Victor's done is he's put the spells in alphabetical order, but by level, which I've never really seen this before, because it's normally just all thrown in. And I like it-ish, because the only downside is obviously if you don't know what level the spell is, it's going to be harder to find, because you used to just flicking through your spell list, but Technomancy is good. You know, it's got spells about like finger guns. You know, you're pointing, going poo poo, and shooting people with your fingers. Which who hasn't wanted to do that as a child, or actually even as an adult? I'm sure. Occasionally we look at people and say they're going to go through sort of backdoor blast protection as well. Make a collect call. Camera gun here, so the caster can use a single camera that they have access to as a gun. So it's just going to be really, like, as much as you've got the spy class, you can turn this Technomancy, what was it called? It was called Techno. You can turn the Technomancy character into a full-on, well, it's kind of like Inspector Gadget type character. You can see what my 80s was, what my childhood was filled of. But I such a great twist on magic, you know, things like energy transfer as well, radiation leak. Let's just let out some radiation in the field. And if the Technomancy wasn't enough, we've then got the psionics to go alongside the Psychonaut character. These aren't level based. The psionics, you're just going to have a number of psionic points to spend a day, and depending on how many you spend will determine on what you can do. So, and you know, does include, there is a little bit of a jumble here because they're not listed by cost or alphabet. So I don't know why they're in the order they're in. That's kind of frustrating for me. But if you know, as a psionic, you're going to get to do things like, you know, protect your mind from the mind shield, psychomancy, pyrokinesis, which is kind of reminds me of, it was the best X-Files episode, the one with the gardener. Well, he wasn't the gardener, but he, you know, lit up all the hallway and things like that. And you can have telepathic bond, tracking, mind blast, mental healing, so you can, you know, help people fix their minds. We then get to take a look at this array of NPCs towards the back of the book. So we've got criminals, thugs, cyber criminals, monsters, because most of the bestiary stuff you're going to use, you can use the old school essentials, bestiaries, or practically any OSR bestiary or monster manual you could go and pick up. So you're going to need some more modern sort of bad guys or good guys to sort of throw into the adventure. So, you know, things like conscripts, if you're going down the military medics, you know, military pilots and sharpshooters. It's all broken out nice and easy. So then get into the law enforcements as well. And then just miscellaneous, so things like bodyguards, hunters, civilian. We've got some paranoias. We've got the Wendigo, Rake. Is it Rake or Raki? I'm not sure. But this is an emaciated pallid creature with sharp claws, known for stalking its prey in the night. Then we've got the Greys, which are your aliens as well, and your Reptoid, which are sort of lizard-like creatures. We're then into robots and constructs. We've got a drone dog, termination cyborg. I'm not going to say it. We all know what Victor's thinking here. A scrap golem and an attack drone. So the one thing it doesn't include is any section for robotics in the book, which you don't really think about until you get to that one section. You've got like a few bits of robots in here. Maybe you'll follow it up with something else. Mercenaries, because old school, it wouldn't be an old school game if you couldn't hire mercenaries and specialists to come out on missions with you. It's got all the costs in here. Then before we get into the adventures and sort of adventure hooks, we've got these extra rules in here. So the only one that I definitely wouldn't include all the time is the cinematic mode, but that just allows, you know, the players are going to have more AC, they're going to have more hit points, so you can be able to sort of, the idea of that is you can wade people, sort of John Wick style, stick them in a room, here's 300 people to get through. You might not worry about counting bullets, etc. But here's the bit on armor damage. So armor is going to get worse as the more it shoots, so it's going to deplete, and eventually it's going to need repairing or replacing. Bleeding rules as well, multi-attacks in a round, and give them a bit of extra starting money. Weapon conditions, they're obviously going to need cleaning, etc. And then we've got this injury table, which is really good. So roll a d20. And I like these. I do like random injury tables. I know some players get annoyed if their favourite character, for example, loses an eye. So it means they're going to permanently find it harder to shoot. But life isn't easy. Things do go wrong. And, if your players are completely invulnerable and never going to have any sort of ongoing disadvantage, is it really role-playing? I've had lots of weird things like this happen to characters, and I really enjoy it. We've got obviously stress mechanic. Oh, sorry, I've forgotten we've got all the loot tables as well. So all random in here for, civilian loot tables, criminal loot, law enforcement, and military, and it's all based on a D100, so you can just roll it, scroll back to the section of the book, and you can either have firearms, melee weapons, armor, or equipment for all that, as well as ammo and attachments. Finally, we're then into plot hooks and the assault on Blackfang Tower. The plot hooks are as much, they're just, I don't want to sort of say standard stuff, but it's things like, Puppet Factory, where authorities have been trying to track down the leads of a notorious serial killer known as the Puppeteer. Stop me when this sounds familiar. And it's all that. It's really, really good little sort of paragraphs and ideas to get the players going and to start off an adventure. And then we've got this adventure here, Assault on Blackfang Tower, which it's for a low-level party, so I like it. It's a first-level adventure in here, which, again, I'm not going to spoil, but I think looking at it, from reading it through, I think it'll probably take you 2 or 3 sessions. And then we've got the maps for the tower here, so there's only 3 levels to that. I say only 3 levels, I don't mean it like that. And then finally, the close out of the book. Hopefully you can see why I enjoy this. So the downside is there's no robotics in here. That's it. That's the only negative I can find. The good side is practically everything else. There is so much in here. 20 amazing classes. Yes, there's a little bit of crossover on them, but there needs to be, because I think 20 possibly could be too many. Well, it's definitely too many. It's definitely too many if there's no crossover, because that's just too much of a diverse thing to pick from players, and you're going to have gaps in the party. But they're all going to feel very different. I think players are going to be able to pick their favorite modern movie characters and just easily adapt that into this setting. I love the fact that you could run this as straight modern day. Well, you could go future, you could go back in the past a little bit, but really appreciate the work Victor's put in here to move it, to put fantasy. I say, I've mentioned Bright before we talk about the inspiration of Bright in the interview that I have with him, which, again, if you haven't watched Bright, go and watch it. So yeah, classes, absolutely amazing. Glad he hasn't messed with the racial traits either of the creatures. Weapons, there's so much weapons in here. If you're running any sort of old school game and you want to put a modern setting in, this is a really handy book to grab as well, because you can easily be able to convert all the weapons. Victor's done all that work for you. And if you want to go and nuke suitcase someone, it's just, Operation, was it? Then you can go and do that in this. It's if you want to go and nuke bomb suitcase someone, you can. I know I say it's a little bit crazy just what's included in here, but this is such an amazing resource for anybody, well, especially a games master, but even a player. There's so many cool things to wheel, and weapon attachments and ammunition. I love the fact that Victor also has included magic weapons in here, magic armor and magic items. The technomancy is a really, really strong magic ability as well. And then obviously we've got the psionics there, and then a load of NPCs. This to me is, well, if I hadn't had it from free, I'd have been instantly buying this based off the conversations that we had in the interview, I think this is a must-own book. And if you are going to pick this up, like I said at the start, please do use my affiliate link. It's fantastic. Please go and support Victor. So I think you can tell that yeah, you need to go and buy this. This is a absolutely fantastic book. Whether you want to run any sort of modern setting for old school essentials, castles and crusades, you're going to be able to take any of those sort of old school books and turn it into a modern setting. And if even if you don't want that, I think the firearms and ammo and armor sections and magic weapon sections and armor are worth it alone for this book. Absolutely amazing. 20 classes, wonderful spells, wonderful psionics abilities. Well done, Victor. This is a really, really good book. And I should just say, right at the end, there's another one coming up for this. So Victor actually, as one of the stretch goals for his Kickstarter, so when this was Kickstarter, he offered to do a Western setting. I bought the Western setting out of actually off the affiliate money. So again, thank you for those using the link. So I will do his Western setting. That will be coming up in the next few days. So if you've enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe to the channel. If you want to see more like this, then I will be back very soon. Thank you for watching.